Good morning, I'm Mikey Oreta and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, the titans of industry shaping our future. And we're not just talking about success stories here, we're diving deep into their hearts and minds to see what drives them. For today's episode, we bring you a man who has transformed the Philippine food and beverage landscape with his vision and tenacity. Rikki Dee, the founder and CEO of FooDee Global Concepts, joins us to share his remarkable journey from humble beginnings to building a billion-peso empire. His venture into the F&B industry has been nothing short of extraordinary, with more than 180 restaurants under his belt, including beloved brands like Mesa, Ho Wan, and llao, to name a few. Here's the story behind this thriving food empire. Rikki, you're a self-made captain of industry with over 30 years of experience in this business. What has this journey been like for you?
Oh, thank you, Mikey, for inviting me. Well, journey started with a single store. Me and my wife, Beng, we started a small restaurant out of passion. My family is into the construction business. As a sideline, we put up a single store. To where we are today, it's organically grown to about 250 stores in the food industry.
Wow, that's phenomenal growth. Okay, your family was in the lumber business. They had a lumber business in Lucena, Quezon. How did you deviate from that business? And was it okay for your family to not be a part of what they started?
Well, we're a big family. We're 7. I'm the middle child. The business was covered by my elder brothers, so I think there's no room for me. So, although I've worked with the company for my first few years, I thought that I should strike it out on myself because nothing would be left by the time it reaches me. I'm a middle child. So we put up a small restaurant. Before doing the restaurant, I was actually selling anything under the sun. Okay. So after that, as a sideline, as I was saying, we ventured into one restaurant out of passion. I belong to a big family, as I was saying, so dinner table is a minimum of 10 to 12 people. The portions of the food, an array portion of food, we used to live with my grandfather. Lots of food on the table. And my father, being a gourmand, kept on challenging my mom. So my mom has to be at her best all the time, cooking my dad's favorite dish. And us, the siblings, became part of it. Wow. So I think early exposure to food was a big influence from my parents.
Can you talk to us about that first restaurant? Tell us about number one.
Number one,
Baby.
I had one chef, one restaurant. When my chef was absent, we have to close store. That's how hard was it earlier on.
Okay, but what gave you that big break? What was it early in your career that helped give you a leg up?
Well, that single store taught me that I had to scale it up. If I want to be professional, meaning I have to be operational from time to time, I have to get more than one chef. And in order to do that, I have to have at least 2 stores. So I immediately put up a second store. So I will have a collection of 3 chefs. So one doesn't make it to the store, then I'll still survive. And that pattern has taught me how to grow the business to a certain scale.
And speaking of scale, when did you start venturing out to get franchises, foreign franchises? When did you think, okay, were you out of ideas? What were you looking for that made you decide to invite brands from overseas to come into the Philippines?
In my 35 years in the industry, my first 15 years was purely own concepts. Okay, we started in the food court. We put up restaurants, small restaurants, all our concept. But the past decades saw globalization. People getting exposed to internet, getting to global brands. So we started getting foreign brands, and then and that started our venture in the franchise. Mm-hmm. While on the local scene, we started franchising out as well.
Okay.
So our Mesa brand started franchising when the boom in the restaurant industry came along.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, you've got hundreds of brands. You can't name all of them, but can you tell us about the top homegrown and foreign brands in your portfolio?
Well, I'm very happy with our newest venture. It's called llao. It's a Spanish yogurt, frozen yogurt brand. When I presented it to the family, I said, oh, this brand is creating raves in Europe and as well as a few Asian stores. And they're inviting us to join them. My kids all said, oh, Dad, frozen yogurt is old, passé. I said, you should see the stores. You cannot question success.
Yeah.
So I was able to convince them. So we came out with a few stores. Then we had some problem with the principal. The problem with the principal, between the principal and the Asia Pacific franchisee. So we were caught in the middle of them. Then finally, when they were able to resolve, we expanded it. I'm happy to announce we're hitting our 100th store by year end.
It's fantastic. It's an amazing brand.
Yeah.
My family loves it. My kids love it. And every time we see it, there are long lines. Okay, so how do you know what's going to click? How do you know what's good? How do you keep abreast of everything that's going on, not just locally, but overseas? How do you do that? How do you keep abreast?
Well, like this one, it's really the success story. I think you can beat that. It's successful, then you just have to grab it. With our other brands like Team Ho Wan, the name calls for the most affordable Michelin star restaurant at that time. So it was a no-brainer for us to be able to ask them to join us here. And then came the cheapest Michelin star, Hawker Chan. So at one time, we had about 5 Michelin-rated stars in our group. Yeah.
Okay.
But not all, I would say, would be successful. There are some that are not applicable to the local scenes.
And what have you learned from the challenges? Talk about a challenge that you...
It's not a guarantee to franchise a foreign brand. You really have to do your background check on the principal, on the product, on dealing with the principal, predominantly. Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of this is relationship
Yes,
based.
the relationship.
Okay. How do you do it? How do you cook up a recipe for success? Your own personal perspective on the recipe for success in this industry.
Well, I guess we're very focused on what we're doing. The family, my next generation joined me about a decade ago. So we were trying to be centralized in our operations before. But after a few years, I saw the potential in each and every one, so we actually decentralized a few years ago. So each one handles its own business unit, so they could be more focused on what they're doing.
Okay, that's a great thing that you mentioned, working with family. What's it like working with family, particularly the next generation? And how do you scout for the talent within them to know who to give what business to?
Well, that's the hardest part. Okay, we started with different levels of sales volume, size of the business. But I'm so lucky that a few of them were able to bring up their, like my son. I'm so proud of my second son who founded Sunny's. It was one of our smallest business division before. Today, it has reached a level of our food business. So it has equalized in somehow. So we're so happy with that. And it would be easy for me to just let him run it since he founded it. So my kids, I all gave them wings to do business. But they take along my wallet as well. They took along my wallet.
The passion, the grit, the drive. How did you inculcate that into the next generation?
Well, I've been asked several times about this. I think it's not an overnight thing. It's not a year or two. Our dining table was like a boardroom early stage on. Dinner time where discussion of strategies, failures, what's upcoming. It was all full of discussion. I tagged them along in my business trips. I tagged them along on job site visits, store opening. So I guess it was innate, and it was inculcated early on in their lives.
Yeah, you nurtured.
So
it
was easy for them to adopt.
Okay. Now, what drives you to do what you do to the extent at which you do it? Because you could have stopped, but you're still at it.
Well, early on, of course, it's for personal. Okay. As the family was growing, it was for the kids. Today, I'm finished with my kids. It's now the grandchildren and maybe legacy.
More on Ricky Dee's entrepreneurial journey when we return. You're watching Industry Beacon here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Industry Beacon, where we're continuing our conversation with Ricky Dee, the visionary behind FooDee Global Concepts. As we dive deeper, we'll explore how his food empire isn't just a professional triumph, but also a family affair, with his children actively shaping their own paths in the culinary world. Plus, Ricky shares invaluable insights and tips for aspiring restaurateurs. Let's listen in. What piece of advice would you like to give to those people starting out in this space that want to start a first restaurant, or that have started a first restaurant but want to grow a portfolio to one that's the size of yours?
Well, I guess not just restaurant, but business as well, in general speaking. Stay focused on what you're doing. Find your niche. Love what you're doing, because when you love what you're doing, it's like not working at all. So have a passion for it as well.
When you were younger, was this what you wanted to do? When did you know you wanted this track?
When the money started coming in. Initially, it was passion. As I was saying, it was a sideline. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to explore the construction side, because my family was into it. But on the side, I started a restaurant, which became very exciting for me. There's more value added in it. And you get to create, you get to recreate, you get to refresh, re-innovate it. So it became a daily thing for me.
Okay, the creativity of it all. I mean, how do you nurture that, and how do you your personal brand of creativity? How do you bring that into your own businesses?
Well, when we travel, it's feeding of the eyes, feeding of the senses, and we travel a lot. We get inspiration from everywhere, and then we love eating. People will eat to live. We live to eat.
What was the biggest break of your career?
Well,
early on,
when I started my first store, it was very exciting. Me and my wife together we're practically doing everything for all sectors, from buying, HR, to everything. So I think that became the advantage that we have today. We knew what's happening inside and outside the restaurant.
All right. Can you walk us through the size of your portfolio to date? What are the brands underneath it? I mean, there's so many, too many to mention. You got hundreds, but perhaps the top brands, foreign and homegrown.
We've diversified over the years. Today, we're in 3 major industries. We're in the food business. We're in retail through Sunny's. Sunny's today Sunny's started as eyewear, then became an optical shop, then came out with cosmetics, and most recently they went into water flask business. Our food group composed of about 10 brands, and then a sub-brand would be our fast food, together with our llao, which is being run by my daughter, Erica, and then our FooDee group, which is run by my eldest son, Eric. Then my youngest daughter, who's unmarried and still new in the industry, started franchising a brand from Singapore called Editor's Market. And then on the side, she does Nirvana, a pre-love concept of vintage clothing. The real estate side, which I run, we're into mall developments. We do community malls outside Metro Manila. We're into office buildings, commercial centers, and we are doing our flagship products next year. It would be a office tower.
What's next for you, Ricky? What's next? Conquering the food space.
We're working on the sustainability plan for the next 2 generations.
Okay, that's fantastic. It's interesting how entrepreneurial each of your children are. And how are you doing this to ensure the next generation, your grandchildren, are just as entrepreneurial?
Well, early on, I think my kids were able to follow the trend that they take their kids along to their business meetings, tag them along to construction site. When they eat, they discuss what's on the table, how it's done, and what's the future. I guess we have the same pattern.
What's a legacy you'd like to leave?
Well, expect the best from our group as we are committed to delivering value to all our customers. And over the years, we've learned so much that the needs and preference have evolved, habits have changed, patterns has a new setting, and we have to stay relevant we have to stay relevant all the time.
That's one thing that you guys know how to do, to stay relevant, to stay current. You're not just on top of the trends, you lead the trends with your brands. How do you develop the eye to do that and then the wherewithal to execute? That's a big question.
Being involved, I guess. We are always involved. We want to stay relevant and very current, as you said. Yeah.
And that's it for today's show. I'm Mikey Oreta. Catch the Bilyonaryo News Channel on Free TV Channel 31 and on cable via Signal Channel 24. Thanks for watching the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.